I think so much got made about, RG3 and, everything that he did, which is great and everything. But like when you look to see when was Baylor winning Big 12 titles, there's a certain quarterback that was at the top of that list. So can we just bring this back for when you were in high school? Because Baylor, it's pre-RG3. I mean, they're not even a 500 team.
Yep.
You're pretty highly touted quarterback prospect. How does that road to Baylor, come together for you?
Yeah, shoot, man, like a lot of things in my life, it worked out how I didn't want it to work out. and I say that in the utmost respect for Baylor, because I would never, ever trade, my days there at Baylor. We had incredible teams, incredible people there. But in saying that, I was a huge SEC guy growing up. So we were in Arkansas. That's where I grew up, first to ninth grade. So we were calling hogs, every day in elementary school. But, my family – both my grandparents and pretty much everybody but us were in Louisiana. So, 03, 07, like, LSU had some teams, with Nick Saban there and everything. So it was, hey, I'm either going to LSU or Arkansas. And so, we ended up moving to Texas, and still I was like one of the only kids that never wore like an A&M shirt or a Texas shirt. I didn't even know anything about those schools. I never even watched them. I was watching SEC football every Saturday. And so I actually, was able to go to Knoxville, and Philip Fulmer in Tennessee offered me a scholarship, and I guess June going into my senior year. Just signed a 7-year extension. Loved him. Dave Clawson was the OC there. Had a pretty good pedigree, and so I kind of fell in love with it, and so I committed there. Well, fast forward, I think they went like, it wasn't good. It was like 3-8 maybe, something like that. But we were actually at the Florida game for my official, and it's fun to see 100,000 people in a stadium. It's not fun seeing 100,000 people in a stadium when they boo. And so it was like, holy smokes, what am I getting into? But anyways, so they actually, ended up firing Philip Fulmer. Kiffin, it was the coach that came in, and actually, believe it or not, had me and Taj Boyd committed at the same time. Taj Boyd went and had a great career with Clemson and on in the NFL, actually the Jets as well. So I guess I follow him too much. But anyway, so we ended up feeling like a little rocky, and ended up decommitting. Well, Coach Montgomery was the OC at Baylor at the time, and he was in Coach's office like within the next week. And he's like, I really want you to come down to Waco. I want you to meet Coach Briles. And, I met Coach Briles. And the beautiful thing about, Coach Briles is he's the same guy that you see on TV and on interviews as he is in person. And, he sat there and told me in his office, he's like, listen, we got a guy that's I think is going to be a stud. So we're really not looking for a quarterback. But we like it if you want to come in. So it was one of those things that, when you ask a girl out, it's like, I'm really not looking, but sure, why not? It's kind of one of those things. And so anyways, it was actually, January when I decommitted from Tennessee. So it was kind of getting to that point of like, man, I got to figure out where to go. And so anyways, the 14-hour drive that I thought I was going to love being away from home, compared to the hour and 10-minute drive, from Waco to Midlothian. And I just kind of, I love that mixed in with, Coach Briles being honestly, brutally, really. And Coach Montgomery was just kind of, he was like, man, just get here. And so we ended up going there, whatever it was, 1,400 something days between, last start in high school, first start in college. There's a lot of stuff in between there. But it was kind of a perfect storm to, an unbelievable 13 and 14 run, for Baylor, because, Griff and Briles a lot with a lot of other guys put us on the map. And, when Texas and A&M came to school anymore, it wasn't just like, oh my gosh, it's Texas, I'll commit. It was like, yeah, well, I got Waco, I can go play as a freshman, and they're good, and so it was a lot of crazy cool things that happened all at the same time to kind of build this I guess beautiful trajectory of 2 Big 12 championships, a new stadium, and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, so as you alluded to, our Coach Briles was feeling pretty confident about this guy Robert that he had there, and that confidence paid dividends. But In 2012, before you get a chance to really get out there, they go with Nick Florence. So you came in under the pretense of, I'm not the guy right away. But do you remember going into that year thinking like it should be me? Do you recall how that played out?
Oh, I was pissed. Yeah. There was and Nick, Nick's a good buddy of mine. But yeah, I mean that was tough because you have the moment of as a freshman coming in from high school, we weren't real successful. And I've always kind of battled with like that. I kind of look around and you see guys that are highly competitive, very successful, that don't look around and it's I'm the best guy here and I'll show you that kind of deal. I was always kind of a feeler outer. I wanted to feel out stuff. So being 18 going in, to Waco was a perfect scenario for me because I get to kind of feel things out. Where am I at? In 7-on-7, where am I at in team drills and all that kind of stuff. But then, once we came back that next summer, it was like perfect. Here we go. I'm running. And then Griff had his unbelievable year. Really came out of nowhere when I was watching that dude throw his, in whatever that was, 11 to, well, I guess 10 to 11. I was like, dude, what did this guy eat? I mean, he just got jacked up and was throwing the ball like 80 yards. The ball would whistle. It was crazy. But anyways, so being behind him that year was everything in me was just competing with Nick and really trying to show Bryles like, hey, you got a dude once Griff leaves. Like this train's not stopping. And even though I say that, I don't even know if I thought about Nick. I thought it was always going to be Griff and me. Well, we get into spring ball the next year, and there's not even a competition. It's like Nick's running with ones, I'm running with twos, and that was it. And then you kind of, not that I'd read a whole lot of the interviews or whatever, but you see Bryles and yeah, it's competition. There's his favorite thing to say is keys to the car. There's no keys to the car yet for anybody. And I'm sitting here going like, well, dude, give me a chance then. I built some like animosity a little bit towards me, just to that situation, not the Bryles, not the Nick, whatever, just that situation of like, man, what the heck? I'm sitting here, and at that point I was like in the best shape of my life. I was, in physical shape anyways, and then throwing the ball better than I've probably ever had in my life. And so I just could not figure out. I was like, I know the offense, I feel like, guys respect me in that matter. What the heck? And, but that was actually the best growing year for me, to be totally honest with you, is because, after that first game, I had almost like a built up selfishness towards like entitlement almost, like this should be me because everything that I listed, instead of looking at the bigger picture and being like, well, it's bigger than you. And so I remember vividly one night just being like, all right, if I'm going to be a backup quarterback, I'm going to try and be the best backup quarterback I can be in the country. Like there's no one that's going to be a better backup quarterback than me, if that's what I have to do. And so honestly, man, it just kind of changed my whole perspective on a lot of different things. And, to where that next off season, it was go time. And shoot, man, we ended up going, 10-3 and 11-2 and rocking and rolling and 2 Big 12 championships. And it couldn't have been better.
Yeah. So how much does that carry over to when you get to the NFL? Because, even though you're a 4th-round pick, which is pretty high for a quarterback, I mean, you don't draft someone there unless you have expectations for them. But they get drafted to a team where, there's veteran guys. How was it easy for you to kind of flip the switch again? Like, okay, I'm back to the backup quarterback scenario. I'm just going to have to be the best backup I can until it's my time. I mean, I'm sure that had to pave the way for that mindset in the NFL.
Yeah, no. It did, because there was a lot of growing, and I'll be the first one to tell you, like, there's no way that I would have been ready to be a starter, in the league. There was so much that I needed to learn because our offense at Baylor, there wasn't a whole lot of, from a mental aspect on a quarterback's plate, there wasn't a whole lot for us to do. Every play had a designated, protection scheme. Every run game, our run scheme that we had, it was just call it, ball it, kind of roll. Where in the NFL, everything was different. You weren't just seeing cover 4 like you do, and you play TCU, play a little cover 6, but it's not the same coverage every game. There's blitz schemes, there's packages, there's situational football, which was crazy to me because, shoot, man, at 4th and 8, coach was punting. Coach was throwing. At Baylor, whereas in the NFL, if it's 3rd and 6, you want to run just to where you get a manageable, punting distance, and then it was just a totally different scope of football that I had been, really living in the last 5 years.